Hello, everybody. It's Marilyn Wilson here, president of RE Technology, with one of our good friends here, Tim Condon, who's the Chief Revenue Officer at Homesnap. We at Wave Group and RE Technology love Homesnap. We think it's just an awesome tool all the way around. It's great because so many MLSs now, I think over 200 now, Tim, have offered this to their members.
To over 250.
250, that's awesome. I know that represents, I think, way over 1 million agents too, right? So basically, Homesnap has offered this to the entire country, and it's just a terrific way to build relationships with your clients, to generate nationwide listing exposure, and provide you a really neat way to talk directly to your clients inside of the Homesnap app as well. But today, Tim's got a really interesting topic for us called a social media. Easy for me to say. Social media advertising is on sale. Marketing during this pandemic that we're all living through. So right now everybody's just trying to figure out, what's the best thing for me to do in the short term. What are the things I should learn that are going to prepare me for the longer term and put me in good stead as we come out of this whole thing. So with that, Tim, I'm going to let you turn it over. Maybe let's just go to that first slide and I'll explain the panel, and then I'll let you guys do your thing.
Great. Hold on one second here. All right.
Here we go. Yeah. So in the bottom of the control panel, you'll see that there's a little section that's called questions. If you just click on that little gray triangle, or frankly in any part of that bar, it'll open it up. So we really want this to be a conversation and not just a presentation. So if you have any questions as Tim is going through this, feel free to throw them in there, and we'll either ask it right as you throw it in, or we'll save it for the end. Okay, so definitely use this time to learn more about BPP with Homesnap, because it's a pretty cool product. Okay, Tim, take it away.
Great, thanks, Marilyn. Really excited to be on here. I've seen a bunch of these, and I think they're all great. So hopefully I live up to the standard.
No pressure.
So yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start by sort of just recapping where we stand today. So as of yesterday, 42 states have issued some sort of lockdown, and the states that haven't, most of them have partial lockdowns, and that represents about 95% of Americans on some sort of stay-at-home order or lockdown. Now, most states consider real estate an essential service, but in a lot of areas, we're seeing things like tasks like appraisals, inspections, mortgage recordings aren't happening, making the act of actually going through a transaction very difficult or impossible. And so a lot of sources are reporting significant slowdown in new listings and closed sales. And that's no surprise. It's a lot of what we're seeing as well. And so we've pulled some data here to look at the trend in Homesnap. We're seeing new listings down about 36% over the past 4 weeks. Sold listings are relatively flat. However, we suspect that most of these solds have been in process since before things really turned. And we expect that will be a lagging indicator, and that will follow the trend of new listings as well. And so as this started happening, we started thinking to ourselves, how does this massive change in human behavior affect online advertising? Here at Homesnap, we run hundreds of thousands of social media and search campaigns on behalf of agents, comprising millions of dollars. So we have a fairly comprehensive data set to analyze what's happening in real time. So here was our hypothesis, that more and more consumers would be trapped in their homes, spending more and more time online, which would significantly increase the supply of impressions. And in addition, there's lots of businesses that literally can't advertise anymore, right? Businesses that are either shut down or travel as a large companies where it just doesn't make sense for them to advertise now. And anybody who's done a basic economics class knows that when supply increases and demand decreases for a given commodity, you're talking about prices dropping. And so we decided to look at the data we had and determine whether we could validate or invalidate the fact that online advertising is basically on sale right now. So we looked at the 4 platforms that we're on. So we're going to start with Facebook and Instagram. Now, just to sort of set the stage here, The yellow lines are impressions per dollar spent. The blue lines are clicks per dollar spent. And when the lines go up and to the right, that means that advertisers are getting more impressions and clicks per dollar spent, right? So that's a good thing. That means it's getting cheaper. And so you can see right off the bat, right, the trend here on Facebook and Instagram follows exactly what we expected, right? You're seeing almost an instant impact about 4 weeks ago of the changes that we've seen, and the change in Facebook and Instagram has been very, very dramatic. So we're seeing lots of increase in supply, right? Lots of people on social media, likely a decrease in demand, right? And the impact on Facebook has been almost a doubling of the number of impressions and clicks that advertisers are getting per dollar.
Wow.
And in Instagram, it's about 50 to 60% improvement.
That's amazing.
Now, yeah, and we thought, so this really followed what we expected, but we were surprised at the big difference between Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And but we have a theory about that. We don't know if it's true, but it sort of logically makes sense. You know, Instagram is about showing off, right? Pictures of vacation, going to events, you know, lots of things that aren't actually really happening right now. And so it seems likely that the amount of content might actually be decreasing a little bit on Instagram, despite the fact that people are willing and able to spend more time on the platform. Facebook, on the other hand, serves a much broader purpose for most people, right? Sharing articles, expressing opinions, interacting with your network of people. So it sort of makes sense that content on Facebook is probably increasing and people are spending more and more time on the platform, which is increasing the supply. Any questions on that before I move on?
We haven't seen any come in, so keep going, Tim.
All right. Okay. Now let's take a look at Google. Now this one was a little bit confusing at first, right? So if you look at those trends, they're basically flat over the past 4 weeks, maybe a little bit of uptick in the past week or so. So we thought a lot about this, and after thinking about it, it sort of makes a little bit of sense, right? What's happening here is we're bidding on a lot of real estate related keywords, right? And people's search behavior probably hasn't changed that dramatically for real estate. As a matter of fact, if anything, it's probably declined a little bit as people really can't get out and look at homes. And so supply probably has not actually increased all that much. If anything, it might have gone down. Now, it also seems likely that there's been some advertiser pullback, and therefore demand has gone down. And so it seems to make sense that, you know, supply and demand have probably moved in the same direction on Google search, and you're seeing not much of a change in the price of impressions and clicks.
Hey, Tim, we do have a question. We do have a question on that. Just in general,
yeah.
Is the price per click on Google versus Facebook versus Instagram? What's the most and least expensive in general?
So it varies pretty widely based on the campaign.
Okay.
We do find that advertisers get better impression, clicks, and leads numbers on Facebook and Instagram, but they tend to be a little bit higher in the funnel, right? And so you might get fewer with something like a Google, but they tend to be a little bit further down the funnel because they're based on somebody's search as opposed to the characteristics of the person. So
that makes sense.
We encourage people to not just think about the price, but think about what their goals are. And, you know, what type of follow through do you have? Are you willing to sort of nurture leads for a while, because you'll get a lot more on Facebook and Instagram, but they may take a little longer to convert.
Got it. Okay, that's great to know. Okay.
Yeah, good question. Okay, now Waze was super interesting to us because it's actually showing the opposite trend. And we really hadn't thought much about this at first. We sort of had this sort of blanket hypothesis. But again, you think about it, and it makes a lot of sense, right? If you think about the supply, right? People aren't commuting. People aren't driving out to places. They're certainly not traveling to places. And so people have a lot less reason to use Waze in the ways that they normally would. And so that's going to really drive down supply. And the other thing about Waze, and this is sort of anecdotal, they've not confirmed this for us, but generally in working with them, we found that a much higher percentage of their advertisers seem to be larger contracted advertisers, as opposed to Facebook and Google, which are sort of real-time auction, people buying and selling on a day-by-day basis, whereas Waze has like the Dunkin' Donuts and the Home Depots and the places that are sort of much more consistent, probably aren't pulling out day one of the situation, and maybe not pulling out at all, right? And so it seems likely that their demand has probably not decreased as fast as Facebook and Google. And so again, you got the opposite situation here. Supply is declining fairly rapidly. Demand is probably fairly stable, and prices are actually going up. And so we're seeing that Waze advertising is actually getting more expensive during this time. And so we think the takeaway is pretty clear. Right now, advertising on social networks like Instagram and Facebook is actually on sale. People are spending more and more time on the platform. You're competing against fewer and fewer advertisers. You're not targeting people based on specific keywords. You're sort of doing much more interruption advertising, and we're actually finding that people are still reacting to it. So we're not seeing a drop off in the number of people who click through and then submit leads. And so before I move on, so that is sort of the findings of our data, and then I want to talk about how we're advising our clients during this time. But are there any questions on any of the platforms and what we're seeing there?
Don't see anything coming through right now, Tim, so go for it.
Great. So let me talk about what we advise our clients to do. And I found these great 2 quotes from Gary Keller. If you've read his sort of letter to his open letter to his company, we thought they're great because they mirror exactly what we're telling clients. So the first one, he says, when a shift happens, it pays to understand the first dollar you make is the dollar you don't spend. The way you do this is to lower your expenses. And then he talks about dig into your goals and determine how many leads you're going to need to achieve them. It's an absolute certainty that it will take more leads to accomplish your sales goals today than it did yesterday. This is why you double down.
Makes sense.
And so what we're saying to our advertisers is, number one, cut all unnecessary costs in your business, right? Look at all the vendors that you have. Do you need them now? Oops, sorry about that. Do you need them now? Are there cheaper alternatives out there? Can you negotiate with some of your suppliers to lower the prices either temporarily or permanently? Cut anything that is not absolutely necessary. You need to be in conserving your cash mode. But then the second thing we advise our clients is advertise strategically, right? Because what you need to do is, one, take advantage of the fact that, advertising is on sale. And two, we're not just seeing that advertising is on sale, but we're also hearing that lead quality has increased on these platforms. Now, this is mostly anecdotal. We don't get to see everything that happens sort of after the lead goes to the agent, but it sort of makes sense, right? Life is slowed down for the world right now. And so when somebody submits a lead, they're much more likely to respond to a follow-up from the agent. And let's be honest, agents have more time to follow up as well, right? And so the likelihood that these leads are more interested in communicating is pretty high. And so they may not be able to transact right now, but if you can get them in your funnel, it will pay back exponentially when things pick back up, which gets to our third recommendation, which is be prepared for a likely surge in pent-up demand. Right? At some point, things are going to return to a relatively normal state. And many people believe, including us at Homesnap, that the demand for housing won't have changed dramatically, but it'll just have shifted. Now, for sure, there's going to be some, decline in demand, right? Of the 6 million people who are currently unemployed, not all of them are going to immediately get their jobs back. But even in 2008, if you look at the data from back then, the year of the great financial housing crisis, existing home sales dropped by 18%. Now, that's a pretty big number, but it's not zero, right?
Right.
It's not 100%. And remember, that crisis directly impacted the consumer's ability to get home financing, right?
Right.
This crisis has a much more indirect impact on the housing market. And so we expect that there's going to be a surge in demand. And so you need to be preparing now and doing the things now to set yourself up for when that happens.
Absolutely. And mortgage interest rates coming down too, right? That's gonna, there's so many things that are gonna make it. It was interesting. I was talking to some of the folks in Houston. You remember a few years ago when they had that terrible hurricane and the city flooded in all places that no one ever expected. And it was totally just like this. It came out of nowhere, right? And they were all out of business for probably about the same amount of time we're going to be out of business. They ended up the year 2% up. So we don't really know what's going to happen here. Like you're right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that have lost their jobs and businesses that will go down. But how many will recover because of all the Recovery Act and relief packages we have? Nobody really knows. But I think it's a very safe statement to say we're going to have a surge in pent-up demand at some level.
At some level. And if you are not someone who's prepared for it, then you're going to fall behind.
Absolutely.
So we've done, Homesnap's done a couple things. One, we've published this in Inman and on our blog, and we'll continue to update the data. Number one. Number two, I'm not going to talk about this today, but Marilyn and I talked about a separate setting where, we can go through sort of some of the features of Homesnap that you as an agent can use today to prepare or to even sort of, engage with your clients virtually. So, I'd encourage you to pick up Homesnap and look through it and see if, and try some of these features out. Some of the more specific things to advertising. So number one, Homesnap Pro ads will automatically pass along any efficiencies to the agents, right? So we're seeing that today, right? Leads and impressions and clicks are all spiking for agents who are using, right? So that just gets passed along, right? So you as an agent or brokerage, or you don't have to do anything, right? So that just gets passed along. Homesnap Pro Plus, which we offer to agents to give them a managed Google business profile and a premium website, right? So the basics an agent can do to sort of just stay online during these times, we've knocked it down to $99 for the first 12 months, right? Which is $500 off the annual price. Our feeling is, much like we encourage our clients to invest in things for when things return, like we believe investing by making this product really accessible to every agent will pay long-term dividends back to us. And so we're willing to sort of take short-term hit in order to build for the long term. And so we hope you guys, we hope everybody, takes advantage of this, because we want to help build a great ecosystem for the industry. And that's really all I had today. So if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to learn more, right, you can go here and learn more about what we can do for you. Or reach out through Marilyn to me, and we can help out. Great.
Well, why don't we'll ask? Let's see if we can get some questions that'll come in on this. Actually, there's one that just came in. So, with maybe going back to Facebook advertising for a second, for those that maybe that have not yet worked with Homesnap or not worked with Facebook ads, and now that we see that it's a much better value than it's been in the past, what kinds of ads can people place? And how does that process work?
Yep. So it's very simple. So every agent who has Homesnap Pro has a dashboard that shows all of their current listings and sales from the past 2 years. Okay. Any one of those can be built as a campaign. So that's the simplest thing, right? To just pick if you have an active listing, or if you have a recent sale. Use that as sort of the content. What we find is that's the best content because, people want to know about houses, right? And so that's what piques their interest. We also have several other sort of products that are more built around sort of month-long campaigns, right? So those are for specific listing. We have other campaigns that are built around month-long campaigns. And any consultant can help figure out what the right type of advertising is for you.
And if you're a buyer's agent, are there opportunities as well? If you focus more on
so we do
buyers.
Yeah, so we do include listings from buyers who were the buyer's agent, right? The solds. Now you do have to have the permission of the listing agent to use the photo, but and we make sure that that's sort of listed there. But that's one. But and then I talked about our month-long advertising. We have some of those products allow the agent to either use stock photography, they can make their own video, right? They can use some of our sort of pre-prepared campaigns as well.
Is there a campaign to just invite all of my friends and family on Facebook to join me on the app, just to download it and so they can join me?
We don't make that as a paid, right? Because if you're just inviting your friends and family, the easiest thing you can do is within the Homesnap app. There's a place where you invite clients, and there's a one tap post it to Facebook, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. For anybody that's on the call that has not yet tried Homesnap, simplest thing to start with is go into your MLS, look at the dashboard, or there's like sometimes they have a bunch of links, and look for that Homesnap logo that you see on the screen right there. And when you see that, just click on it, and that'll take you down the process of registering, to get the app downloaded and do a bunch of different things. Remember, that costs you nothing, which is also a really good thing right now, because people are looking for ways to have opportunities. But I did have a couple of questions on things you just mentioned, so let me ask that. So Kevin asked, what's included in the $99 fee for the Homesnap Pro website? Does it have IDX or does it have CRM? What's on that website?
Good question. So we actually pull in the full Homesnap search, right? So you essentially have our premium search as the search on your website. So it's essentially the MLS search. At least everything that we can show to consumers.
Okay.
We don't build a CRM, but you do have a dashboard that shows that has all of your listings, and then your leads come in as emails, and they can be parsed into a CRM tool if you have one.
Gotcha. And we do have a few MLS folks on the call today too. Thank you. I don't know if you're already providing Homesnap or not, but I know that some MLSs are, speaking of websites, are taking Homesnap and using that as their MLS consumer-facing website. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, that works for MLSs and brokerages. Where we will, build out sort of a within their domain and within their sort of branding. Let them take the Homesnap search in a few different ways, either as a widget or as framing the whole site, so that the consumers that are coming to their site also get the same experience.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen Rochester, New York has it, and their members love it. They're getting a ton of leads out of it. So for any of you that haven't yet,
I think we're down in Florida.
Yeah, it's in Stellar MLS has it too, I think, right?
Stellar, yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody's in that market, if you go to what is it called? I forget the name of it now. I'm sorry, but that website is being viewed by Homesnap as well. So that's awesome.
Oh. I can't remember either.
State 27 homes. That's
right. Yeah.
Okay. My brain gets there eventually.
Yeah. And that's free for MLSs. We just provide that as part of our overall agreement with the MLSs.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Balaram, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Balaram, is asking, I might have missed this. Can you merge the Homesnap IDX with Squarespace? Is there a way to do that?
We don't currently have an integration with other partners. Here's the deal. We, as Homesnap, we don't have our data license is for Homesnap, right? And we're permitted to build websites for agents, but we aren't an IDX provider, right? We do not syndicate the data out, right? We can use it sort of within our ecosystem, but you have to use an IDX provider to syndicate it.
Gotcha. Here's another question. If I'm using the advertising programs that you guys have, do the ads go to Facebook and Instagram and Google, or do they just go to Facebook, or can I decide? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. So we give the agents complete control. So you tell us which platforms you want, you tell us how much you want per platform, and then we just execute on it. And I will tell you, one thing that in working with Facebook and Instagram we found is doing both has incremental benefits, right? Because they are the same company, right? And so when you do both, they look for which is the most efficient at any point in time, and will feed your ads there. So, but you get the choice. We will execute on whatever you tell us to execute on.
Gotcha. So I mentioned up front about leads that are generated through Homesnap, and I believe the number is over 2 million now, right? Since Broker Portal has come together, it's a pretty big deal. If I'm an agent on here and maybe I've used Homesnap, or maybe I haven't yet, tried it out, even though I may have access to it. What are they seeing? Like, are agents really doing business with this platform? Is it really helping them? I mean, 2 million leads sounds like an awful lot of leads. Are there people closing deals from this stuff? Are these good leads?
Absolutely. It's incredible. I mean, so much of it's the support of our MLS partners, right? In working with us to make, frankly, a platform that is on par with any other platform out there. But the advantage is, you're working directly with your agent, right? And so, we're seeing two things happening. One, we're seeing people finding agents, right, just by using Homesnap, either directly through us, or when we partner with an MLS to put rentals on Facebook Marketplace, or when we do things like with State 27 Homes, right? All of those just serve to drive consumers into finding agents. And then also what's great is agents, they sort of bring their contacts in, and then they're sort of getting leads from their existing network without doing anything, right? Because it becomes their default app. And that's sort of an underappreciated value proposition. Everybody feels like, oh, they're already my clients. Well, guess what? They're really not, because most people don't reuse the same agent, because they don't remember, they don't stay in touch, right? And this is a great way. Homesnap has a little drip functionality that sort of like keeps a little touch point on the consumer once you've invited them to be your client in Homesnap.
You just mentioned rentals. This is a question that I'll just bring to the table because I've seen this program, and maybe you can share with everyone. One of the things that we saw back in the last downturn was that there were some people that they weren't able to do a whole lot of residential sales business, but they kept themselves alive with rentals, because rentals still have to happen, right? We still need a place to live, and now especially because we can't leave our house, we really need a place to live.
Yes.
Tell me about the rental marketplace thing. What is that? How do people take advantage of that? What is it doing for people? That's a really cool program.
Yeah. So, and I don't have all the data at my fingertips, but I will say, so the way it works, so this is really where Homesnap can act in full value as a BPP, right? Where we've essentially gone to Facebook because we have such a strong partnership with Facebook. And we've worked with them to come up with a program where we, with the MLS's permission or the brokerage permission, can put rental listings into Facebook's marketplace. And we tested that in a few MLSs early on, and the lead volume exploded. And we maybe had 2% of our listings were in Facebook Marketplace in the beta period, and it immediately turned into 20% of our lead volume for the whole platform. I mean, that is how dramatic this is. And the best thing is it's all coming through the MLS, so you don't have to worry about like people putting up the wrong information. People, you don't have to worry about fake listings going up. It all comes from the one main data source, which is really the value proposition to Facebook and to the MLS and their members.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember you telling me it was like, I don't know, 40% increase in like 3 days or some crazy number. The Facebook Marketplace, I'm a little addicted to it personally. I don't know for anybody that's on the call, if you haven't yet, Facebook Marketplace is different than Facebook. It's a part of it. If you go to the bottom of your Facebook app, you'll see a little, I forget what the icon is, but you just click on all the icons, you'll find it. And marketplace is literally what it says. It's like it's a place where you can buy and sell everything from, a patio umbrella that someone doesn't want anymore to a car, a house, a boat, you name it, right? There's a bunch of things on there, but Homesnap really kind of owns that rental space now. So if you're in that business of rentals and are looking or want to get in that business of rentals, recognizing what we were just talking about, that this, residential may slow down for a bit, it's a really, really powerful tool to look at. So ask your MLS if they have it. If they don't, and they don't want to have it yet, ask your brokerage. They may be able to participate. It's a great way to generate business. And by the way, there's no cost to the agent or the brokerage for that program, right?
That's right. We do this as part of our, BPP, stature, right?
Yeah. So that's, and when I first heard that, I got to tell you, I don't know if anybody on the call has a question. I was like, what? Facebook's doing something free? What? Don't those are people that like work with the Chinese or I don't know, Russians or whatever? It kind of worried me. And when I actually spoke directly with Facebook, and actually I did a little consulting with them at one point, and what they told me was, and it makes sense when you think about it as a Facebook user, they make money when we engage, right? So if you go on Facebook for 2 hours a day versus 20 minutes a day, that's what makes their platform powerful, is the number of people on it, and it's hundreds of millions of people, by the way, and the amount of time that we spend on it. I got to believe that their usage right now is off the charts because everybody's trying to connect with everybody in a million different ways, and Facebook's no exception. So they look for good content. In effect, we're all content providers, right? If we write a little post about my daughter's a senior in high school and that's content for them. That's something that they can use for engagement. It's the same thing. So rental inventory is the same in effect to them, just another way to get you to stay on their platform longer, right?
It's a very complementary partnership, right? Because they don't want to make money off of leads, right? They want to make money off of inventory of eyeballs. And so that's why the agreement allows us to ensure and insist that the leads only go to the listing agent.
Right. And so that's very, very different than other places where you might do lead gen, because those places are getting paid to generate leads. This is generating paid to build eyeballs. It's a completely different metric and very, very foreign to the way we think in the real estate industry, but very, very powerful nonetheless. Okay, good. Let's see if we have any other questions here. So Sophie asks, are there any restrictions in listing homes on Facebook Marketplace? And maybe I'll ask you a follow-on question, Sophie. Do you mean by yourself or do you mean with Homesnap or both? Maybe you can answer it both ways, Tim.
Yeah. So, Facebook, they don't have the same type of marketplace for sale homes as they do for rentals. We've actually been talking with them, and that is something they want to do and build it in a more formal way. My experience, is that you can sort of do it Craigslist style, where you can sort of put up a listing, but we don't have currently any way to push new for sale listings into Facebook Marketplace. But we expect that if and when they're ready to do it, that we will be sort of front of the line.
Gotcha. So Sophie's asking, actually, as her own brokerage, is there a way for her to just post something? I don't know. I guess you could, like you post anything else. I don't know if they'll take it or not, though. Right.
I think they will, but they don't have any kind of a feed, ingestion process now. So it is a lot like Craigslist in that way. Gotcha. Yeah. So as long as you're doing it following, fair housing guidelines and things like that, you might be okay, but you have to be careful. It's not right. It's not ready following all the rules of your MLS.
Right. Okay. All right. So we've got about 10, 15 minutes left, Tim, and because we've kind of talked about our initial topic, which is great, and thank you so much for sharing that. It's really, I think, exciting that at a time when everybody's trying to tighten their belt, that they could actually spend maybe the same amount and get a lot more, or spend a little less and get just the same, right? So that's all really good news. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the relatively recent announcement you had about the tools about how to predict when someone's going to be using or buying a home and things. That's a whole other bit of Homesnap is like it's a treasure trove of opportunity for agents and MLSs. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that program. And at some point, I'd love to have you back on and we can talk in more detail about that. Maybe just give us a little overview on that.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to at some point do a full, sort of like show and tell.
Yeah.
But basically, what we released I guess it's about 2 months ago now, was a huge, literally the biggest upgrade to Homesnap since we launched.
Okay.
We now, on every unlisted home, right? Any home that is, is not currently for sale.
Okay.
We have data on all prior and current mortgages.
Okay.
We have pulled in things like interest rate, equity, lots of different data points. In addition to the homeowner information, including contact information where we have it. And we've used all this data, and we took this and we've had this data for a long time, frankly, and we created an algorithm that looks backwards and says, okay, let's look at every single listing we have and all the information we had about that home 12 months before it listed. And then we say, okay, now let's look for things that are similar and predict which homes are likely to list in the next 12 months.
Got it.
And within Homesnap, you can just hunt and peck, right? Just sort of look around, put a little heat map on there, and we show you like, okay, if it's like most likely to list, we're going to put it in orange. If it's sort of likely to list, we'll put it in yellow. And then you can sort of dive in and understand, like, we'll tell you, like, here are the reasons why we think it's likely to list. And so you can sort of assess for yourself if you think we're doing a good job or not, or you want to make your own sort of formula. You're able to do that as well. But we give you sort of a nice, easy way to say, let me see anybody who seems to be likely to list based on the things that are happening with their particular home and their particular environment. And so, our hope is that it helps agents to, be a little more targeted in their prospecting. And especially for agents now who are sort of like, maybe have a little more time to sort of think about like, okay, when the surge comes, how do I prepare myself? How do I sort of like get my name out there and be efficient about it, right? Because, everybody loves doing the post office, what is it, EDDM, direct mailing. But the reality is, like, you don't know how much you're wasting by sending to 75% of the homes that aren't likely to list. And so we give you a little tool to sort of help refine that a little bit. And hopefully, as we continue, we'll continue to build products off of that so that we'll make it even easier for agents to say, I only want to market to these homes. And we'll say, sure, press this button and we'll make it happen for you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. That sounds great. But that's a great tool, though. One of the things that we just did a COVID-19 survey, which actually I'm trying to get time to publish. Too busy talking to all of you guys and trying to help you. But one of the things that was really, I thought interesting was about 2/3 of the people that answered it said their number one sales activity right now is calling people, right? Calling their clients, calling their prospects, maybe calling their neighbors, and taking that list of the people on the hot ring, right? And then looking at the people on that hot ring, that might be a really great way to take that activity of calling people and just, prioritizing it a little bit to say, these are the people that may, like you say, once the pent up demand starts to release again, they may be people that are more likely. And if I can build a relationship with them now in their time of need and help them in whatever way I can, a year from now, when, as the model would suggest, they might be ready, people are going to remember that. They're going to remember if you were there for them in a legitimate, genuine way, right? This isn't the time to go for the jugular and say, I need to list your house in 10 minutes, right? That's not going to happen. But if you can be someone in your neighborhood or in your sphere that's, looked at as someone that's there to try to help, you also can do quick CMAs in Homesnap, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah. So we've had this tool.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've had that tool for a long time. The ability to sort of build out within a few minutes a simple CMA. Now, it's not going to be on par with something you might spend an hour or two researching. But if you're looking for a quick touch point with a number of people that you want to sort of just demonstrate, your capabilities, it's a great tool to just sort of a couple taps and have a 40 to 45 page PDF to share with someone who might be thinking about, what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of agents that when they call folks, well, there are two things. One is they are calling people, which is great. But some of them are struggling with, well, what should I talk about, right? I mean, just frankly, I think just calling to say how are you doing is probably enough right now, to be honest. But people are telling me when they call, we've all read way too many articles about COVID-19, right? One of the things that's common among all of us is we have those moments we wake up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, like, oh my God, what's happening here, right? And one of the things that people worry about is the economy / when they say economy now, unfortunately, we're very much aligned with housing values equals the economy. We know that's only a component, but it's an important component. So by having something like that where you're on the phone and you could even ask them, like, are you worried about the value of your home? Do you thinking that anything's going to happen differently or whatever? You could send them a CMA. You could talk about the mortgage interest rates and how they're coming down and how that's actually driving up demand. And you can just find out what other concerns that they might have. But there's a fair number of things within Homesnap that if you're on the phone and they ask you a question, there's 2 or 3 different things that you could send them right away that would be like calm. Like you say, not a super duper, it doesn't take you 5 hours. It's a push a button and away it goes. But it's enough to just be a touch point.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts for things that agents can do right now. One, in basically every market we have coming soons in the app, right? And in most markets, if the consumer is a client of yours, they can see coming soons also, right? And that's coming soons have just exploded right now because a lot of agents, they don't want to accrue days on market, right? And so they put it in as a coming soon, and then they decide if they want to actually list it or then pull it off for a period of time. But you as an agent can say to if you have a buyer's client, like, I can help sort of like, source houses that aren't yet listed, but are probably going to be listed. And that's both coming soon and the likely to list, right? So if you're a buyer's agent and you have a client who's interested in a certain type of home and you know that lots of stuff isn't being listed now, but you can start targeting those homes that are probably going to list sometime in the next 12 months and maybe see if you can, stimulate them to move faster by reaching out to them.
That's great. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways I think to take advantage of the app, not the least of which is just inviting people to it so they see your name and say, hey, this is a great thing. One of the things I love about Homesnap, and I'm not an agent, sometimes I feel like I should be because I know about this stuff, but one of the things I like about it is you can actually text your client right inside of the app, right? Or they can text you even better. So if they're driving down the street, and not that we're driving down the street right now, but if you go into the grocery store every few weeks, happen to see something, they can actually text you, and more likely might be, oh my gosh, what's happening to the real estate market? Am I gonna go in foreclosure in 6 months, right? You can use it for that tool too. So it's a really nice, I don't know, like client. It's almost like a client relationship management tool. It's not a system like a CRM, but we do have a question from Sophie, and I'm not sure if Sophie, you probably will want to get an answer to this, more detailed answer, but maybe just a quick overview, Tim. Sophie's asking about Listingbook. Are you familiar with that product?
Yes.
She's asking, is Homesnap similar to that, or is it something that she should do in addition to Listingbook, or how would you compare the two?
Good question. So currently, Homesnap is a much more robust than Listingbook, right? So we obviously allow for search based on lots of filters. We provide, as I just talked about, data on off-market homes. We allow for lots of good communication between agents and clients and agents to other agents. So we have a lot more functionality than Listingbook. And what we do is, so Listingbook's, my understanding of their sort of value proposition is you're sort of setting up a little bit of a safe search type alert that allows them to sort of go in. Today, the way Homesnap that is, we do that automatically for all of your clients based on their search behavior, right? So it'll sort of just change over time. It's mostly for passive seekers, right? People who are sort of like just looking around, and we sort of see what they're looking at, and we say, oh, let's start showing them more of these homes, right? Sort of like a little like Amazon type algorithm. Safe search alerts is on our short-term roadmap to be able to pull. As a matter of fact, in some MLSs, we've connected with the MLSs so that the saved searches that you put in the MLS actually feed
Mm-hmm.
through Homesnap.
Right.
And that's actually another thing that is free for MLSs that is really powerful, because then it connects two systems together that agents really, that agents like.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on your MLS, that will come sooner or later. But that is sort of the one piece that Listingbook has that, we think is really great. And we're striving to get there.
So maybe for Listingbook is more about that sort of ongoing nurturing, whereas you guys are real time and you're feeding them just in a more sort of automatic way the things that make sense
Right.
based on how they're engaging with the app. So probably both of them
Right.
make sense. I would say, Sophie, if I were
Yeah.
you, I would stay with Listingbook and add this on as a different type of tool. The other thing that is really
Mm-hmm.
cool, I don't want to sell for you guys because that's not the intention of this, but just talking Sophie, who's a broker looking at this, you can broker brand this too, right? Homesnap can be your
Yeah.
own app. So talk about that a little bit,
Yeah.
because that's valuable to know too.
Yep. So we work with a few brokerages to essentially put their brand in the app, and that goes on all their agents, profiles, and all of their agents' clients see their brand throughout the app. And then we also connect it to our social media advertising tool. So when the ads are on Facebook or Google or Waze, the brokerage branding is also there as well. So it's a great way for a broker to just expand the impressions that they're getting across all the different places where we put agents. So we do that, and sort of depending on how it's structured, it's either low cost or no cost. So
Gotcha.
Sophie, you're more than welcome to sort of get in touch with me if you want to find out more.
Yeah, and I was going to say on that, speaking of P&Ls and looking at costs, right? Some brokers have had, I wouldn't say futile, well, maybe I would say futile, and or failed attempts to try to have their own mobile app to pay for it, which can cost thousands and thousands of dollars a year. And to break through, if you're only in one market, even if you're in, we work with one large broker, they're pretty much in the entire Southeast. They cannot get that mobile app to break through on the app stores because there's really smart people like Tim with national apps that are beating them to the punch, right? So if you're looking at that, you're saying, geez, I know mobile's the hot thing. I know I should have it, but it's just not getting you what you want. That's one place I would slice right off the P&L and work with these guys. I've seen broker after broker and many, many large brokers that spent their own time and money, some spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and didn't get anything out of it. So if that's one place from a broker perspective, cut that off your budget and work with Homesnap. It won't cost you anything, or if it is, it's a couple $100s. It's nothing like thousands and thousands like you might be spending right now.
No, and that's a great point. That's a great place to cut an expense on something that every brokerage that we've worked with to build branding and has replaced their app has only had a net positive, because everything from the search engine benefits that we have as a national platform to the fact that our technology is scaled across all of these places, so we can do a lot more than a typical one-off app provider can do. Every one of them has been, super pleased with the results that they get. And so, we're happy to do it. And frankly, it makes everything more seamless when we do it.
Gotcha. Kevin has a question. With Homesnap Pro Plus, does it populate new listings to your Facebook page automatically, or is that a paid feature?
So we don't have a Facebook page integration yet. That is on the list of features coming. We do populate all of your listings to your Google business profile.
Oh, okay. So because that's part of that same package, it'll go to the profile. Okay. And Google obviously gets a ton of traffic too. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the Facebook business page will come. We prioritized websites over it because we felt that was something that, agents pay for, and this is a way to sort of consolidate their spending into, sort of one low price product. But we know Facebook business pages are important, and we'll build those out too.
So yeah, let's go back to that. So it's $99 for a full year, which includes a website and the Google page. Again, if people are looking at slicing on their P&Ls, I bet most of you are paying more than $99 a year for your website.
Yeah.
That's a very, very, very good price if you're looking for places to save money.
there's a lot of other sort of like features within the app also, but the one thing that sort of always gets overlooked is we also, with Pro Plus, every listing gets its own lead page that you can use anywhere you want. And it's a full page about that home, right? So for anybody who sort of goes out and creates like pages, independent web pages for, listings that they have, we actually include that. We don't really talk about it that much, but it's an incredible feature that a lot of agents, they'll, even if you're just paying the $15 to buy the web, the web URL, right?
Right.
That right there just goes away.
So it's basically like it's like a single property website page that you get for every one of your listings. And if I'm part of a brokerage and I don't have a lot of my own listings, can I borrow some from my colleagues in my own brokerage, or no?
I mean, they're just URLs, right? So to the extent that people want to share them, we don't care. Okay,
got it. Awesome. All right. Well, Tim, maybe if you want to we're just a few minutes up until the top of the hour. If you want to bring us home on what's the key next step? So if someone says, I see this Facebook advertising, it's a better deal. I don't have a ton of money, but I'm going to cut a few of those things that don't work. I'm going to try to lean in toward social media marketing because I don't think there's a person on the planet that doesn't think that's a good place to promote things today. What's their next step? What do they do? How do they do it? How do you make it happen?
Yeah. So the simplest thing is within Homesnap, there's a Pro Agent tab, whether on the web or on the app, and right there you'll see my dashboard, and my dashboard is the place where you can go to sort of see all your listings, see what your Google Business Profile would look like, and sort of make all those decisions. If you want something more custom, if you're sort of a higher production agent or you're a brokerage and you sort of want to understand a little more deeply than just one-off listings, we've got the URL up here on the screen. Just go there and talk to somebody, right? We've got a bunch of consultants who will just understand your situation and walk you through what your best program is, right? Some people want to spend a fixed amount of money every month and just have a certain presence. Others want to just market particular listings, and we can sort of do it all on a custom basis for any agent or brokerage. So if you want something a little more custom, then this is the way to go. If you want to just try it out for a particular listing or a recent sold, just go on the dashboard and test it out, and you can pick how much money you want to spend. And gosh, it starts as low as $39 because places like Facebook, you just get a ton of volume. So that's what I do. Either try it out on a one-off basis or talk to a consultant and get something more custom.
And do you have to be like if you go into your MLS and it's there, do you already have to be sort of registered as a Homesnap user in order to do what you just described? Is that the first step?
You do, but as you go through the process, we'll just take you right through the registration. It doesn't take very long. We just need to validate that you are who you say you are, and then you'll just come right through to the to the places I talked about.
Gotcha. Okay, so it looks like we go to homesnap.com. If you look at the screen /pro/enterprise, and Sophie, that's probably a good place for you to go to ask the question about comparing more directly what Listingbook does and what Homesnap can do for you. And is there anybody? Oh, let's see. I just have one here. I just paid $99, and so I paid $149 earlier in the month. Roseanne, I would probably reach out to Enterprise, and they can take care of that for you. Things are changing.
Talk to if you email support@homesnap.com, right? Those are the kinds of questions that can go there.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending today. Thank you, Tim. This was really interesting to see. It's amazing the implications COVID-19's had on all kinds of parts of our world, including Facebook advertising costs. So I appreciate you taking us through that.
It is a very strange world.
It sure is. So
thanks, Marilyn. Thanks, everyone.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and take this precious, precious time to be with your family and to learn more about this good stuff because it could help you in the long term. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.